Has woke society done anything for society that's positive? My name's Ben, and I am pleased you tuned into the channel. The problem of being awake. Now, has the woke uprising done anything positive for this world? I would argue no, and I would argue no with every fibre of my being. And I'd like to hear the opinion of anyone over 30 who doesn't consider themselves to be woke, particularly, to give me an example of any good it's done. Anything good about it at all. Because I'm going to list off a whole load of examples of the bad things it's done. Okay, so it started in the education systems, where they started teaching and preaching children how to think, not what to. Sorry, what to think, not how to think. That's an overused phrase, but it's true. Uh, you know, teaching people what to think is indoctrination them. Teaching people how to think, that's more what the job of a teacher in that situation would be. Now, so that's education. Then we drop down a further notch. Back at the beginning of 2023, there was an argument whether it was okay to teach critical race theory at university level. By around the middle, around August of last year, they were teaching it to 5-year-olds. The premise of critical race theory is that white people were responsible for all slavery and all bad things that have gone on in the world, and that we have something called white privilege, which means we couldn't have achieved had we not been white. Now, I've had a not a privileged life, so I'm going to say I'm not part of that. I'm not buying into that at all. There are plenty of white people who have had less privileged lives than you if you're a woke person. Because that's a luxury being woke. It really is. I don't think there's enough gratitude. If you've got the time to be woke, you're lucky. So, wokeism, education took that over. Transgenderism, well, brought that in. Now, I'm sorry, but the argument that there's always been this many transgender people, and the argument that if they're not given their way, they're likely to commit suicide, is horseshit to the highest degree. A friend of mine put it beautifully. He says, if that were true, and it had always been around, and it always led children to commit suicide, why do we not look back through the ages and see this pandemic of teenage suicide? It's not there. And how is it that 10 people in 1 week in one school class identified as being trans non-binary? Did they just all come out together? No. They were all in the same school class for a while. But no, one of them did, the other one did. So it was just cool to them. And it is to a lot of people, which is a shame because it takes away from people who are really suffering with gender dysphoria. Makes a mockery of it. And I've spoken to probably about 5 to 6 trans people, old clients of mine, and they find it very, very difficult now. They find the world is a more transphobic world. And I don't like that word because transphobia means fear of, but a less tolerant world for trans people than there was before. Because now, I mean, the percentages are rising, 10 times, 20 times multipliers of what they were. And it's an unstoppable scourge that is ruining people, allowing them to ruin themselves. And I have to say that I speak a lot out against it because it's not true. It's not true. There's so many people doing it for fashion reasons or because it's part of the new thing. There's not nearly a small percentage of those people who are doing it because they generally feel it. because the odds didn't go from 0.03 in men and in women and 0.0001% of men to suddenly somewhere in the teens percent because it wasn't fashionable. And then you move on to government infiltration. Well, Joe Biden's been completely woke. We're lucky in this country. The Tories have stamped their foot down on a lot of the wokeism. But if you look at the US government, we've still got it in our government, NHS, police, fire, everybody else. They have their preferred pronouns at the end of their emails because that's DEI. Don't get me started. So DEI, diversity, diversity, inclusion, and equity. Now, equity is communism. So, but there's now a DEI department in most corporations, somewhere in the HR. So I can't name a single thing. I can only name bad things. I can only name costs of the economy that's involved, which is huge, globally as well, and the implications of that moving forward for the rest of us. I can only name the mutilation of our children and the bankruptcy of their education, and I can only name the weak and timid approach to our governments and their decision to try and turn the whole world woke. And when people say, "Oh, I can't speak out about it, I might lose my job," but I do agree with you. I say, "Well, speak out about it," because you may lose your job, but you're losing your principles. Yeah, and if you lose your principles too much, you become bitter and resentful. I understand you may not be able to. You might need to look for another job if your organisation is extremely woke. But if you don't like woke, why would you want to work in that organisation anyway? Wokeism is a leftist. What would be sort of like a tentacle-based sea monster, and if you join with leftists, the country and the world's doomed into a sense of socialism and privilege until they will realise that they've just invited the people who want to kill them specifically into their world because they fell for their secrets too. Anyway, I'm glad to see more people speaking up. Keep going, speak your mind, don't let people take the piss out of you, and keep fighting the good fight. I'll speak to you later. If you like it, subscribe and share. If you don't, you've already got it. So that's good. It's not good, but it's all right. Anyway, I'll talk to you soon.